All right. Well, a new bill in California takes all of the decision making about a child's gender and name away from parents. It would also take away custody from a parent who does not want to go along with the child's gender ideology. At this point, I'm surprised that it's even legal to name your own baby in California. Like, why bother, right? Because you don't get the chance to stick with that name.
How rude of you for naming that baby.
And if a child is eventually going to present to you their gender and pronouns and name, what right do you even have as the parent when they come out of your body to name it? Why not just like give all kids in California a number until they tell you what they are?
Gattaca style.
That way you don't risk losing them, right? Because you're not trying to choose the name that you chose for them at birth.
Right.
Like, okay, number 2, I wouldn't want to be called child number 2.
Was there a celebrity?
Clayton and I are both the oldest.
Yeah.
We are number 1.
Wasn't there like a celebrity recently who, maybe a short time ago, a few years ago, was saying like they weren't going to select the gender of their child. They were going to not pick it. They were going to wait till their child chose it.
You see all kinds of news stories about that. I think Elon Musk gave his kids names integers or something like that, or algebraic unknown equations. I don't know. Anyway. Let's get back to this bill in California, because I do think that at some point it will be illegal to give your kids a name because they need to tell us themselves. Apparently in California, they think all 3-year-olds are super wise. The bill was written to give legal rights to one parent to affirm a child's gender ideology if another parent doesn't want to. What I mean by gender ideology is that a child can deny their biological reality and tell you they are something else. You shall address them as something else, and that ideology gets preferenced in the Western world, and the hotbed for that is in California and apparently Washington and Oregon, where our producers live. The bill is called AB 957, the family law.
I love how they name it that.
Gender identity.
The family law.
Yeah.
So, and then if you vote against it, Clayton he voted against the family law.
Well, I do want to talk about this idea of like weighing the idea of gender ideology versus family. We're going to get to that. It was introduced by Democratic Assembly member Lori Wilson and Senator Scott Weiner. Now, this may be a bit of an unfair photo of Senator Weiner from the Post-Millennial, but he allowed it to be taken, so at least we know what his ideology is.
He's on a public street wearing nothing but a tie and a backpack. So
I don't think that's what that is. I think that's supposed to be some kind of S&M paraphernalia. Am I wrong?
I don't know. You would know.
I didn't scroll down. I didn't zoom in.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm just pretty sure if you wear that out.
Actually, let's check in with David. David, is that S&M outfit?
Yes.
Let's go to our expert.
Yeah.
I have. Sorry,
go to our S&M reporter, David Foster, coming to us live.
I have our live report. David Foster, go. Yes, it is an S&M outfit. Yes, it looks like it.
It is an S&M.
It's not a church-going outfit. Depends on the church you
Depends
go to.
on what church.
I suppose. Now, originally, let's get back to AB 957. Originally, it set out as a procedure for children to change their names and gender within a court with family permission. The bill was written in February, but look what they've done to it since. It's all blacked out. Like, it gave the court some kind of wiggle room to decide, is this child in a good place? Do their parents have their best interest at heart? Do we really think we're making good decisions for the family and the child? They've edited it out to just wipe all that away. No more like sort of it's up to the court. It's just gone. The bill originally said that the court would have to consider the nature of the child's relationship with a parent. But now that's no longer of concern. Now the court will decide if a parent is providing a good home or safe environment based on whether or not they are affirming that child's gender. See what they've done here? It says this bill, for the purposes of this provision, would include a parent's affirmation of the child's gender identity as part of the health, safety, and welfare of the child. So a judge could say to you, okay, Clayton, you've raised these babies their whole life. This child is now 12. You have been the class parent. You have been in their lives in an active and engaging way, but you don't think that changing their name and pronoun is a healthy thing to do. we can't take that into consideration anymore. Like, it's different if it's a dad who has never been around these kids and then just comes in and wants to oppose ideology than a dad who's an active part. And I'm using dad because it's really, let's be honest, it's dads that it will be disproportionately harmed here, in my opinion. And the court doesn't have the right now to sort of take into account the family relationship. Is just, do you affirm the child or do you not? If you don't, that is a danger to their health and safety, and you are then at risk of losing this child. Now, the woman Lori Wilson, who introduced this bill, here's how she explains this, or I'm going to say doesn't explain it, why you would do this to a family. Watch.
So this particular bill adds the very important factor that affirming a child's gender identity is in their best interest, which is what your question is about. Why does it actually say that in an affirmative way? And it really is because if you have a 7-year-old who's talking about having a potential to say, being able to articulate that they believe that they are not the same gender as they are biologically, then it should be affirmed. And through care, it should be determined. And that's what we did with our own child. And that would give the ability for a parent who wasn't sure to affirm and get their child the care that they need to make that, so they can begin to articulate that determination. But by saying and rejecting it in wholesale, then you're essentially rejecting your child. And that is not in the best interests of a child. We should be affirming our children in every possible way and getting them whatever appropriate care they need, whether it's based on their gender, whether it's based on how their studies are in school. It doesn't matter. Our children should be affirmed. And this is saying that you have to include gender affirmation as a part of that.
Okay, so I have a real problem, a visceral response to when she says, if a parent that's not sure, this will give them the opportunity to affirm. That doesn't make any sense. If a parent's not sure, we'll force their hand. That's basically your parental rights be damned.
Because
right?
we absolutely want government. In the absence of parenting, we want government to step in. Anytime government steps in an absence of parenting, it's always a disaster.
But this is the opposite of an absence of parenting. This is a parent saying, I don't think this is right for my child. I'm not going along with it. I'm going to parent in my way. And this is the state saying, no, you're not. You're going to parent in our way. And if you're not sure about it, we will take that right away from you.
So it's not even that there's parents missing from the equation. It's that the government wants to supersede what the parents feel. So if you have a father, it's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to affirm, provide puberty blockers and affirm this 7-year-old's gender ideology. And the mom is like, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. She can go to the state and her position will be upheld on that.
Yes. Well, originally the bill said that you could issue a court order to the non-confirming parent. So if in this situation we have a child and I think that child now should change their gender and you do not, I could ask the court for a court order, or I could serve you with papers, or there was a protocol that I could follow. Now it's gone. It's just that parent is SOL. Let's get them out of the equation. They lose custody, not even that it's a fight anymore. What she was saying here in this explanation, which I think was just very piss poor. And also there's no data based on it. And I want to get to that in a second. It was an answer to Assemblyman Bill Asaley. Listen to his question, which I think was super valid and not even asked in a contemptuous way. Watch what he says.
Why do we assume that affirming a 7-year-old's option or a 7-year-old's decision is always in the best interest of the child? It excludes a lot of other factors, and excludes parents who might have questions or want to seek professional guidance in diagnosing the gender dysmorphia and exploring it. So I'm having trouble with, why do we assume that that is always going to be in the best interest of the child in every single case?
Yeah, it's a great question.
We saw her answer. Mm-hmm. She just said, you affirm.
Just do it. So think about it in terms of, we know that there's a number of factors, right? We know mentally
Well, let me tell you what we know.
I was just going to say something on military and drinking age and driving age. Like your brain is not mature enough to handle a lot of that at that age, right? So why don't we just allow 7-year-olds to join the military?
Or why don't we allow 7-year-olds who get their period through precocious puberty to have sex and become mothers?
Yeah. Why don't we do that?
I was going to say, like, there are kids that are always like, oh, I want to marry this man. Like, they're in love with this man or whatever. You know, it's like, because they live in a fantasy world. And it's like, do you have to affirm that? Like, I want to be a vampire and I only want to eat, pigeons or whatever. It's like, you have to like, where does it stop once you start? Like that,
right.
And only this one thing.
And then we're literally having this discussions about child trafficking because we don't want children to be in the hands of predators at a certain age. So you're basically saying that if a 7-year-old just wants to go get married, what you affirm that. She's telling you to affirm everything that they want. Everything that they want.
Yes.
You're just going to have a bunch of smoking, drinking, tattooed 7-year-olds.
Yeah. When I was 12.
It'll be the 1920s again.
Yeah. When I was 12, I saw the Great Balls of Fire. And I thought that, like, what's wrong with this movie? That he marries his 13-year-old cousin. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of romantic because I was 12. And I thought it was awesome. Now, I've since seen it since I'm a mother, and I'm horrified by it.
Right.
So if you had left it to me, I would have married Dennis Quaid when I was 12. Okay, Let's just talk a little bit about what the data shows us, because there is no research shows that giving children what they want is good parenting. There isn't, nor is there research that shows that affirming gender ideology alleviates gender dysphoria. Even if you affirm this child's gender, chosen gender, gender dysphoria persists. Same with medicalization, same with surgery. They still have gender dysphoria, even if you affirm. And it is shown that puberty is the thing that the one cure we normally have for gender dysphoria is just going through the course of puberty. But we are blocking the one thing that can help it.
So then
medically,
does the government here in California then have a solution for, gender dysphoria continues, even if you do affirm it, and even if you do then lose custody, and now the dad is out of the picture, now you've totally effed up this family. Right. So now you've really removed a big piece of what we know leads to success in children is having a father around. So now you've removed that component from it.
It's not necessarily the father, but we know that most usually it's the father and the mother, because there is this subset of women, usually around my age, who thinks that they are trying to be this, really hypervigilant mother, creating a world that's safe for their child and opening, broadening horizons and affirming, what they think is just super progressive and kind, ends up being unkind because you're causing real pain to physical bodies and trying to reorder society by telling everyone else that their instinct about gender is wrong and creating more pain. Now, here's the congressman's follow-up about how the judge's decisions in this bill and a judge trying to decide what's best family by family would be removed. And I think he makes a good point, and he is one of the few politicians in California willing to say this.
I guess my concern is that as a policy, we're stating that it's always in their best interest, regardless of what the situation is. And that's what I'm struggling with, that a 7-year-old may not know exactly what they're dealing with. And I think adults are free to do whatever they want, but here we're talking about kids, children, 7-year-olds who are still developing. And to have the court step in and just say, this is always going to be the case, I have a hard time with. Let me ask you this follow-up question. Do you have any examples in where judges are getting this wrong, or there's some abuse in the family court system? Because what we're doing here is removing the discretion from the judges and removing an individualized determination, so a judge can look at a specific case and say, in this case, yes, I can see this child truly has gender dysphoria, and it's in their best interest that they be with this parent. But we're taking that analysis out, and we're not even going to have that conversation anymore, and we're going to say it's always going to be this way. So why not trust the judges to do the work in the court and what's the best interest for that child before them there?
It adds it as a factor. Currently, it's not a factor. Currently, they do not have discretion to be able to consider that as a factor.
Well, can we change it to just say it's a factor? The way it reads now is that they have to consider affirmation because it is in the best interest. And same thing with the name change. It says the courts have to side with the parent who is seeking the name change. So it doesn't provide the court with much latitude there. I mean, if that's something you're willing to work on, but I just respectfully, as currently written, I cannot support the bill. Thank you.
I mean, they're telling judges what to do, right?
Right.
Based on this ideology. This bill was already passed in California Assembly and it was referred over to the Senate. A hearing on it will happen this week. And I think here's an interesting calculation that we've sort of already touched upon, but I assure you no politician will do, is that the science is undeniable that children raised with two parents are better off than children raised with only one. And usually the number one predictor of success, and I can get you this research if you want it, it's pretty easy to find. The number one predictor of success is involvement of the father in a child, which kind of feels crappy if you're the mom, like we're, baseline what you expect.
This really upset her because she's like, after she's reading all the research, she's like, I do all of this stuff. And then the one baseline predictor of success is
usually
the dad comes along.
Is the involvement of the father. It's the thing that sets a child up for success. It's the one thing that puts them over the line. And so when you say here that we think that we are going to remove the father or one parent, right? Even if it's not the father, but most likely, most of the time in these situations, it's the father that doesn't want to go along with the ideology. Then you're balancing which one is the lesser of two evils. Well, we know that taking away a parent is harming the child, but we're going to do that for gender ideology, which we don't know how it harms a child, right? And so this is a real world calculation that can be done by politicians, and they're choosing not to in the name of ideology. Here is an example of one dad in California who's fighting against this. His son is 3. And being raised with his ex. They were never married, but the ex has since said that she's a lesbian and that this boy is non-binary. He's 3. And the father is saying, I don't want to affirm this. He's a biological boy. I want to have an equal say in who my son is. They have 50-50 custody, but he could lose it, according to this new bill, if he does not affirm that a 3-year-old is non-binary. So again, these are real world calculations that we can do, but we're deciding not to because there is something, I guess, very affirmative to us as adults about gender ideology. It makes people feel like we're really enlightened and awesome if we go along with this without asking tough questions.
It's awful to think that a father could lose his son, his little boy, to a nutbag.
Or a daughter.
Ex-wife who say, no, he's not a boy anymore. He's non-binary and you need to affirm this. And then the state could step in and strip him of custody because he won't go along with this crap.
Yeah. There's lots of...
My God.
Oh, yes. The guy in Canada. There's a lot of cases where there's fathers whose daughters are going all the way through surgery, breast removal, really harmful toxic endocrine disruptors. And they will lose all contact with the child for saying this is not right. And this has happened. Yeah, the guy in Canada that David spoke about.
This is Western leaders right now. These are the Western leaders.
I mean, at a time when we could say, hey, we need full parental involvement in children's lives. We should not be doing things that hinder that, period. That's not the way we're going. It does seem to be, as you see often in the comments and on Twitter, an attack on the family. It does feel very true.
You're watching a state failing right before our eyes. So Republicans, if they want to fight against something like this, and we're independent on this show, we think both parties are corrupt on this show. But if Republicans really wanted to fight something, instead of shoveling billions of dollars to Ukraine as their, the thing that they wave their flag for, put their focus on this crap. Put their focus on this crap. You literally you would have millions of votes. I mean, you would have millions of people supporting that to stop this craziness in places like California and otherwise. I mean, to stand up for these families, to stand up for these children. It's about the children at the heart of this.
I suppose. I mean, I struggle with that because I feel like these culture wars distract us from actual wars where people die. And
but this is but the point is, you forgot the first part of what I said was to stop funding those wars, to stop doing those wars. First, take your money out of Ukraine and focus on these things which have real world consequences. We're seeing it happening at the state legislatures now.
Right.
I mean, this is not a joke anymore. No, I totally agree with you on like the cultural war stuff, and it's often used as a distraction, and it helps them win elections, and they go back to doing the same crap right away. They use culture as a way to, but this is not. This is beyond that now.
Yeah, and I realize that I feel very passionate about this to protect women's rights, as you know, but I also feel passionate about it to protect the family, and I do feel like if we don't keep an eye on all of it at this point, none of it's a distraction, because by the time we open our eyes, all of our rights will be gone.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.